first rule of being a Nocturne Express driver is the only one they tell you to your face. Don't be late. The rest you learn in the dark. The second rule I learned on my first delivery was ignore the sounds from the package. The third rule came an hour later. Never, ever look the toll man in the eye. I'm on my fourth rule now, huddled in the trunk of my own rusted sedan, hiding from the company van I abandoned a mile back. My phone has no signal, but the delivery scanner I grabbed in a panic is glowing on the floor next to me, the screen displaying a new message in stark green text. It's not a delivery instruction, it's a rule. Rules number 4. We know you're scared. We know where you are. Get back in the van. And as the sound of a heavy vehicle slowing down on the gravel shoulder outside reaches my ears, I realize I'm about to learn the fifth rule, the one about what happens when you try to run. It started, as it always does, with desperation. Mine was a cocktail of overdue rent, a car that was one cough away from death, and the kind of soul-crushing quiet that comes from having no job prospects. I found the ad on a late-night job board, buried under listings for pyramid schemes and data entry scams. Nocturne Express Delivery, night owls wanted, exceptional pay, no questions asked. The interview was in a warehouse that smelled of rust and ozone. A man who introduced himself only as Marcus, a walking skeleton in a stained polo shirt, didn't look at my resume. He just looked at me, a long, unnerving stare that felt like he was weighing my soul. You look tired, he rasped, his voice like dry leaves skittering across concrete. I need the work, I said. That's all we require. He slid a set of keys and a heavy, industrial-looking scanner across the desk. The van is out back. It's already loaded. The scanner will give you your route and your instructions, one stop at a time. The pay is $5,000. Cash, deposited into your account the second your shift ends at sunrise. Don't be late. And don't get creative. The scanner tells you what to do. You do it. Understood? I nodded. The number 5,000 echoing in my empty bank account. Understood. Good, he said, turning away, his attention already gone. Your first shift starts now. The van was a black, windowless behemoth that seemed to absorb the light around it. The cargo bay was separated from the cab by a thick metal grate, and it was filled with about a dozen packages, all wrapped in plain brown paper. The moment I turned the key, the scanner flickered to life. A map of the city appeared, a single glowing route carved through it. Then a message popped up. First delivery, 113 Shade Tree Lane. To package for a heavy crate. Special instructions, rule number 2. The package may produce a sound like a crying infant. This is a standard pressure release mechanism. Do not open the package. Do not attempt to pacify the sound. I stared at the screen. A pressure release mechanism that sounded like a baby? It had to be a test. Some sick joke to see if the new guy would panic. I climbed into the back to find package 4A. It was a wooden crate, about 2 feet square, and it was cold to the touch. As I lifted it, I felt a slight vibration from within, a low, rhythmic thrumming. The drive to Shade Tree Lane was quiet. I was starting to relax, convincing myself the rule was just corporate weirdness. Then the sound started. It wasn't just like a crying infant. It was a crying infant. It was a desperate, panicked wail filled with pain and fear. It was the most human sound I had ever heard. My entire body tensed, every paternal instinct. I didn't even know I had screamed at me to pull over, to pry open the crate, to help the child I was sure was trapped inside. But Marcus's dead eyes and the promise of $5,000 kept my foot on the accelerator. I gripped the steering wheel, my knuckles white. As the cries grew louder, more frantic, it sounded like it was being hurt, its wails turning into sharp, piercing shrieks. I felt like a monster, a kidnapper, an accomplice to something truly unspeakable. When I finally pulled up to 113 Shade Tree Lane, the house was completely dark, set back from the road behind a row of overgrown, menacing-looking hedges. The crying from the crate stopped the instant I killed the engine. The sudden silence was somehow worse. I carried the crate to the porch. It was heavy and unnervingly quiet now. I placed it on the welcome mat, scanned the barcode on the side, and the scanner chimed. Delivery complete. As I turned to leave, a light flicked on in an upstairs window. A pale face, little more than a smudge of white in the darkness, watched me for a second before the light went out. I didn't wait to see more. I was back in the van and speeding away before the porch light could even think about turning on. I was breathing heavily, my heart pounding. A test. It had to be. My scanner chimed, pulling me from my thoughts. Second delivery, the old Wickery Bridge. Package 7B, small satchel. Special instructions, rule number 3. Before the bridge, at the crossroads of Old Mill Road, you will see a man holding a lantern. He is not lost. He is the toll. Your scanner's side compartment will dispense 1 silver coin. Throw the coin out of the driver's side window as you pass. Do not slow down. Do not look him in the eye. This was no longer a test. This was something else. My hands were shaking as I found the small compartment on the side of the scanner. I pressed a button, and with a soft whir, a single heavy silver coin dropped into my palm. It was cold and bore a strange sigil I didn't recognize. A crescent moon impaled on a spike. The route took me out of the suburbs and into the countryside. The roads grew narrower, the trees crowding in on either side. Old Mill Road was little more than a dirt track. My headlights cut a lonely path through the oppressive darkness. Then I saw it up ahead, a single flickering point of light, the lantern. As I drew closer, I saw the man holding it. He stood perfectly still in the exact center of the crossroads, a tall, gaunt figure in a long, dark coat. His face was hidden in the shadow cast by a wide-brimmed hat. He didn't move a muscle as my van approached. He just stood there, waiting, the lantern light dancing eerily. My heart hammered in my chest. Do not slow down. Do not look him in the eye. I gripped the silver coin, my palms sweating. I kept my eyes fixed on the road ahead, focusing on the bridge just past the crossroads. As I entered the intersection, I rolled down the window and, without looking, tossed the coin out. It hit the dirt with a soft clink. In my peripheral vision, I saw the man move. He bent down to pick up the coin, but he didn't bend like a person. His torso remained perfectly upright as his legs seemed to fold in on themselves at impossible angles, like a spider's. He collapsed downwards, his hand snatching the coin from the dirt. As he rose again, just as unnaturally, the lantern light swung upwards, and for a horrifying split second, it illuminated his face. There were no eyes, no nose, no mouth, just a smooth, pale expanse of skin, like a mannequin's face. And then, in a blink, the skin rippled and tore open, revealing a swarm of glistening black eyes, all of which swiveled to stare directly at me. I screamed and stomped on the accelerator. The van fish-tailed on the dirt track as I shot forward across the old wooden bridge, the rattling of the planks barely drowning out the sound of my own frantic heartbeat. I didn't look in the rear-view mirror. I didn't need to. The image of that face, of those countless hungry eyes, was burned into my mind. The package, a small leather satchel, was to be left in the center of the bridge. I did it without stopping the van completely, practically throwing it out the door before speeding off into the night. My mind was a whirlwind of terror. Who or what was I delivering for? These weren't customers. They were something else, and I was their errand boy. The scanner chimed again, its cheerful tone a mocking counterpoint to my terror. Third delivery, the Elysian Tower, Penthouse A. Package 2C, ornate mirror. Special instructions, rule number 4. The doorman, Arthur, will offer you a glass of water from his personal flask. Refuse politely. What they drink is not for the living. The Elysian Tower was a gleaming spire of glass and steel in the heart of downtown, a world away from the rural nightmare of the Crossroads. For a moment, it felt like a return to sanity. I parked the van in the loading bay and carried the package, a large, flat box, towards the service entrance. The rule echoed in my mind. What they drink is not for the living. The lobby was opulent, all marble and gold, and empty, save for a single smiling doorman standing behind a large mahogany desk. He was an older gentleman with kind eyes and a perfectly trimmed white mustache. Nocturne Express, right on time, he chirped, his voice warm and welcoming. Arthur, at your service. Hot night, isn't it? Care for a drink? He held up a silver flask. My own special blend. Keeps an old man going on these long shifts. His smile was genuine. His eyes were kind. There was nothing outwardly menacing about him at all. But I had seen the man with no face. I knew the rules were not suggestions. "No, thank you, sir," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "I'm fine." Arthur's smile tightened just a fraction of an inch. A flicker of something cold and ancient passed through his kind eyes. "A pity," he said, his voice losing some of its warmth. "It's very refreshing." He capped his flask and gestured towards the elevator. "Penthouse A. They're expecting you." The delivery itself was uneventful. I left the mirror outside the penthouse door, and it was pulled inside by an unseen hand. Before I had even turned to leave, the real horror came when I returned to the lobby. It was still empty. Arthur was gone from his desk. As I walked towards the glass exit doors, I saw him standing outside on the curb, his back to me, taking a long drink from his flask. And then I saw his reflection in the glass door. The reflection was facing me. It was smiling, a wide, predatory grin that was nothing like the kind old man's. And as the reflection of Arthur took a drink, I watched in abject horror as its throat bubbled and dissolved, the skin sloughing off like wet paper to reveal a dark, hollow cavity beneath. The real Arthur, his back still to me, wiped his mouth. Seemingly unaffected, he was just a vessel, a mask, and I had just seen what was wearing it. I burst through the doors and ran back to the van, my sanity fraying at the edges. These things were everywhere, hiding in plain sight, and I was delivering their mail. I got in the van, my hands shaking, ready to drive this cursed vehicle into a river, but the scanner chimed again. My final stop. It wasn't a delivery. It was a pickup. Instructions. Proceed to the southeast corner. Locate the red 1998 sedan. The package is in the trunk. The previous driver was unable to complete his shift. His final payment is in the glove compartment. Leave it on the driver's seat. Retrieve the package and proceed back to the depot. A cold dread settled over me. The previous driver. The junkyard was a mountain range of rusted metal under a pale moonlight. I found the sedan easily. It was parked away from the other wrecks, looking almost pristine except for the thick layer of dust on it. The air around it was still and heavy with a sweet, sickly smell, like rotten meat and cheap air freshener. The driver's side door was unlocked. I opened the gag. He was still in there, slumped over the steering wheel. His skin was gray and pulled taut against his skull. His eyes were wide, staring, and his mouth was open in a silent scream. But the most horrifying thing was his age. He looked ancient, like a mummy. Every drop of moisture seemingly sucked out of his body. On the passenger seat was a Nocturne Express scanner. Its screen cracked. This was my future. This is what this job did to people. I reached into the glove compartment, my hand brushing against the driver's brittle, paper-like clothing. I found the envelope of cash. It was thick, $5,000, a payment for a dead man. I placed it on his lap, my heart aching with a strange mix of pity and terror. I was paying for my own funeral. I closed the door and went to the trunk. When I opened it, my blood ran cold. Inside was a single wooden crate, about 2 feet square. It was identical to the first package I had delivered. I was no longer just an errand boy. I was a cog in a machine, a link in a chain, replacing the man who had just broken. I loaded the crate into my van and drove. I wasn't following the GPS anymore. I was just driving anywhere, away from the depot, away from Nocturne. But the van seemed to have a mind of its own, the steering pulling gently but persistently, trying to guide me back to the warehouse. This wasn't a job you could just walk away from. You finished your shift, or the shift finished you. That's when I panicked. I swerved the van to the side of the road, threw it in park, and ran. I grabbed my scanner without thinking. It was my only source of light, the only key to this whole nightmare. I sprinted through the woods until I found my own car, where I'd left it near the warehouse. I jumped in, started the engine, and drove. I didn't know where I was going, I just drove. An hour later, I pulled over, my adrenaline finally crashing. I was safe, I was free. And then the scanner in my passenger seat, dark until now, lit up. A message appeared. It was rule number 4. We know you're scared, we know where you are. Get back in the van. Which brings us back to now. Back to the trunk of my car. The scanner glowing with its impossible message. I can hear the van doors slide open outside, heavy footsteps crunch on the gravel. Coming closer, my scanner lights up again with one final message. Your replacement is here for the package, Jake. Please be cooperative. Your second shift begins now. If you enjoyed this terrifying story and want to hear more tales from the shadows, please show your support. Like this video. Leave a comment with your favorite rule. Share it with someone who enjoys the dark. And be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. You never know what might be delivered next.